Hello, this is Neil Shep and Katie Loans, and you're listening to the Don't Do That, Do This podcast, the show that shares inspiring and actionable growth stories in the Middle East, brought to you by the British Chamber of Commerce Dubai. Today, we have Erika Doyle. Erika is a true champion of the zero alcohol revolution in the UAE, the founder of Drink Dry, the GCC's first and only premium non-alcoholic brand drinks marketplace. Erika is a well-known and revered figure in the beverage industry. What started as an e-store, Drink Dry is now a firm mainstay in the retail and hospitality sector across the UAE. You're going to absolutely love this interview. Before we dive into this interview, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast channel. This podcast wouldn't have been possible without the following teams. Rightfully for storytelling and thought leadership, Studio Red for the quality podcast studio and video production, and Sherbet Lemon for branding, social media design and editing.
Erika, thank you so much for joining the Don't Do That, Do This podcast.
Good morning. Pleasure.
Great. Really excited to have you here. We've got so many questions. We want to cover all different areas.
So many.
Of business, personal life, your journey in Dubai. But we want to start with the most pressing of questions, which is...
Shoot.
What is your favourite biscuit?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it has to be a shortbread and anything shortbread, but not just any shortbread. It's got to be the butteriest, the most naughty biscuit, you know, the ones that you get in a farm shop somewhere in like rural Sussex where it just hits the spot with a nice cup of tea in cold weather. Yeah. That's the one.
Should we open it now?
Yeah.
Should we just go for it? So let's close the podcast.
Pure butter shortbread round. We've got it.
I mean, the weather is cold in Dubai at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. Shall I get it opened?
Yeah, so if you can answer questions whilst eating shortbread.
Or we just eat the shortbread.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we could just
one
go
or
down
the other,
that.
right?
So look, we're really excited to have you here, and we're going to get into some real detail just from the pre-interview, I can tell. Given that you're a non-alcohol brand,
Yes.
it's only right for me to ask you, do you drink alcohol?
I do not, but, and there's always a but, because I feel when I say I don't drink alcohol or I do not consume alcohol, I don't ever want to come across as judgy or that Drink Dry stands for teetotalism or anything like that. And the but is very important. So I don't drink alcohol, but, you know, I serve alcohol at dinner parties at my house as well as non-alc.
Okay.
And my husband is an alcohol distribution business.
Okay.
I've spent the last 15 years since we've been married part of that industry as well. So there's zero judgment from my side.
Do you have like two bars at home? One non-alcohol and one alcohol?
I do, actually.
Do you?
Exactly that. Yeah, I do. But we do merge them. Yeah. We do kind of merge them, and we try to have a selection. And that is a huge part of why I started Drink Dry. It's to give people choices and options, not even just, you know, tonight I'm not drinking, today I'm not drinking, but I might start off with a non-alcoholic glass of sparkling wine.
Yeah.
Then I will have a glass of red wine with my dinner. And then I will decide if I will have a whiskey tipple or a brandy tipple at the end of dinner. So it's just giving people a choice. Yeah. And it's really interesting. Whenever we have dinner parties at home, I find a lot of people, this is their first encounter with that kind of choice, where they come to our house and I'm a non-drinker. So is my husband. My husband doesn't drink alcohol either, but he sells alcohol for a living. So they're so confused as to, will there be alcohol at this house? Are they pro? Are they against it? And then they're just given with this absolute open-mindedness of, you do you.
I just imagine like an abundance of alcohol and non-alcohol drinks in your home.
Yeah.
Is that
it is,
what
yeah.
it looks like, basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, not just even like abundance of alcohol, non-alcohol, there's an abundance of mainstream brands as well as craft brands. So there's just a whole plethora of choice.
We should have hosted this at your house, I feel. It would have been...
And you've been to my house.
Party. I have.
Yeah, I think we should have done.
Yes. Next time.
Yeah, and so Hamza, if we could start to do these podcasts at homes, that would be great. So tell us about the drink dry journey.
Okay, so how much time do you have? Because I can go on and on and on about this. Look, the whole journey of drink dry, when I look back, it's a real pinch me moment, and when I start to talk about it, I sometimes get emotional. Sometimes I get like a tingle of pride. Sometimes I get a tingle of fear of we've achieved so much and where's this going to go? So the story of drink dry to me is incredibly personal, and it makes it even more special to me because what we have achieved and where we are today, I did not set out with any clear intentions or a business plan that I wrote and I said, this is what we need to do. It was such an organic, pragmatic journey every single step of the way. So it started with the fact that I gave up alcohol 8 years ago. And by the time we moved to the UAE in 2019, I think, I was a seasoned non-drinker, and I knew my non-alcoholic drinks. I knew what was out there. I knew how to mix them. I knew how they were made, without knowing that this was something really valuable, because not many people did. Not many people knew that these products even exist, right? So when I moved here, and I remember going to Prime 68 in JW Marriott, which to this day I think is one of the most exquisite steak places in the UAE. And we went there, and I was so used to going anywhere by this point in the UK, even your local pub or a nice restaurant in London, where there was a choice of non-alcoholic drinks for me and my husband, whether it's a beer or non-alcoholic gin and tonic or even, a wine. And we went there, and it just hit me that there was nothing. So I sat there having the most amazing steak, and I wanted to spend money on a really amazing drink, but I couldn't. So I sat there with a glass of water, eating steak, and I just felt really disappointed as a guest, as a consumer. And that's nothing to say about the venue. It was just an example of what was going on in the UAE. I then went on a mission to see, okay, maybe it's just not available there. Surely it's got to be available somewhere. I just need to look hard enough. Supermarkets, restaurants, online, everywhere. Nobody had anything to offer to a non-drinking consumer who was looking for sophisticated non-alcoholic drinks that wasn't a soft drink or a juice or a mocktail. So after probably 6 to 9 months of frustration and constantly whinging about not wanting to go out or going anywhere and thinking, well, I'm not going to really enjoy myself. Because if you look at the way we socialize into what brings us joy, into how we judge if a dinner party or wedding or birthday party was successful, was the food and drink great? It's part of our DNA. We celebrate Christmas. Yeah, absolutely. Was the food and drink offering great? Were my basic needs satisfied, right? So after a long time of whinging and always asking people who were traveling from the UK to visit us to bring me bottles of non-alcoholic drinks. So unlike, maybe other residents asked for people to drink something in their bag that had more strength, I was always asking for people to drink non-alcoholic drinks. And so I whinged and I moaned, and then my husband said, well, do something about it. I come from zero background in business. My background is history and politics. I worked as a parliamentary researcher in London. I then went on to work for Lithuanian embassy in the political section. So I've never, and I never aspired to go into business or run a business or start a business. So that was challenging, and it was not my comfort zone. I don't come directly from drinks industry. My husband has been in that industry. So I think I realized later on that, again, I knew so much more about the industry than I gave myself credit for. And then in 2020, a month before COVID, I went to DD, opened a company, paid for the trade license. And I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I'm going to start importing and selling. And the selling was a very broad concept. I didn't know how. It wasn't necessarily e-commerce. It wasn't necessarily retail. I didn't know how. It was just, I'm going to sell it. I don't know how, but I'm going to sell it. And I'm going to build my tribe. I was convinced that there are more people out there like me who wanted to have something else to drink that wasn't alcohol and it wasn't soft drink.
I suppose as well, when, sobriety, people think it's kind of like a lifelong decision, but there are so many people that it's periodic as well. It might be that they've chosen to for a reason, could be pregnant, could be preparing for an operation or anything like that. So there must be people, it's cyclical as well with dry January, which
Absolutely.
we're recording now in dry January. So this is, everybody we speak to seems to have been taking an oath for themselves for the month. But what about for those people that try it and then go forward and it becomes a lifestyle? Do you have any kind of insights as to more about that? Like how do people take that next leap?
I think it's very gradual, and I always say moderation is key. And
Are you thinking about taking that leap?
Well, I don't drink a huge amount, but when I drink, I binge. I mean, I'll be really honest.
yeah,
And it's Christmases, it's birthdays.
dry January is in January for a reason. As well. If you look at what people do to their bodies in December, in terms of going out, lack of sleep, overindulgence in every single way, there's a reason that dry January is in January. And
Skid.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think since COVID, we've all taken a lot more keener interest in our health, and it's not just physical. It now translates to mental and emotional. There's a phrase called hangxiety, which is hangover mixed with anxiety, and that's a big part of why people decide to give it a break, moderate, give it up altogether, try non-alc. And I think there's been a real gradual shift, and I stress on that. I think nobody makes that really hard switch from I'm drinking today and then tomorrow I'm completely giving it up. And you shouldn't be. Everything in moderation is okay. But I think once you take that leap, and I say that from personal experience, when you take that leap, you become a lot more mindful in terms of what's good for you, what's not good for you. And then, slowly you start making better decisions for yourself. And then next thing you know, you haven't had alcohol for 8 or 9 years and you have no plans to go back to it.
I think your taste buds change as well, because I gave up red wine for a month. It was during Ramadan, and I've not enjoyed it ever since. I did the same for coffee last January. So I do think you can almost train yourself to not desire it.
Absolutely. And I think alcohol is really a quiet palate as well. It requires development, So somebody who tries beer for the first time, in their teenage years, they don't go, oh my goodness, I love this. This tastes amazing. They go, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Let me try to get used to it,
So does that mean, is the target audience someone that has drunk before and has taken that leap for non-alcohol, or is it someone that just actually wants to go non-alcohol first?
Good question. And I think there's a mix of everything. Dubai it's a multicultural society. We have different nationalities, different age groups, different cultures. And because of that, we have so many different consumer segments. And when we first started out, so when I first started Drink Dry, I started the company in 2020. January 2021 was the first year of trading for us, dry January. And in that moment in time, in the early days, I would say we grabbed the consumers who would have been drinkers, who were possibly doing dry January, possibly just looking to moderate, maybe not a bit of damp January. But we definitely started out with growing our audience from the low-hanging fruit, which is the people who had a palate and knew what alcohol tastes like, but were looking to moderate. And then as we went on in the last 3.5 to 4 years, we've done specific marketing campaigns, and we've actively tried to understand how to get a different audience on board and how to present the drinks to them, And I'll give you a really good example. When I first started, I loathed the word mocktail. I wanted to tattoo death to the mocktail on my forehead and walk around with it because I genuinely disliked mocktails. But what I have learned in the last 4 years is that mocktail in a local Arabic Emirati non-drinking community is a loved word for a reason, because they think it tastes good, it's what they enjoy. And so instead of trying to say that something that they enjoy is bad for them, why don't we just make it better? Why don't we just make it better? So now we talk about non-alcoholic drinks, and we use the word mocktail when we use our non-alcoholic spirits, and we're targeting and we are promoting our drinks to a local audience, whether it's Emirati or people who don't drink, have never drunk, who haven't got a palate for a dirty martini. They don't know. It's
so
not it's a very specific palate.
Yeah, and then they're not going to appreciate the non-alcohol version.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. How can you appreciate something that you've never had in the original taste? And what we do instead is that we just evolve the traditional mocktails to taste better, to be less sugary, to have more flavor to it, to complement the food better. And then they win because it's an enhanced experience for them.
Yep.
And then we win because we get to introduce our products and our drinks and the whole idea to really unusual target audience for us in the first place.
I think the presentation of a mocktail is always quite engaging as well. So yeah, like you say, from an F&B perspective to eye-catching, Instagram-worthy, all these things, you must have some fun in that creative space.
Yeah, and we do, and why shouldn't we? So if anybody asks me now about mocktails, I say, I love mocktails. We just need to tweak them. They don't need to have 17 spoonfuls of sugar in it. Yeah. We just need to tweak them and make them taste better, and people can enjoy more of them.
So just to give a sense of the business, before I do that,
you want to know what is Drink Dry?
Yeah, I want to know that, but I also now want to know, are sales off the charts in January?
Correct.
Really?
So January,
just like spike.
Yes.
And then
so put it that way. January for us is always bigger than December before. And December is always the biggest month in any given calendar year. So whatever we achieve in January this year, we will trump it in December 2024. But January 2025 will be bigger. Wow. And it's always, a lot of F&B businesses come out of the busy periods of October, November, December into a bit of a, peace and quiet, gather up your thoughts. For us, it's not, 30th, 31st of December, we're going. Like, we need to find it in us to just keep going.
That's amazing. So look, when I was looking at Drink Dry, there's an e-com business. You talked about first supplying from abroad and bringing the brands across. So there's almost like this wholesale thing going on, direct to consumer on your e-com store. Then I see you're in bars, and then you've got the retail, so Waitrose, etc. So I'm seeing there going, is this an e-com brand? But actually it's not their own product, it's brand. So why don't the brands just go to the Waitroses directly, right? And then...
Great question.
So explain Drink Dry. What is the business model is the ultimate question.
I feel like we have done it our way. And, the fact that I mentioned I have no business experience, I have no drinks experience, it turned out to be my superpower because I wasn't put in a box. I didn't have a certain clear idea what we can do, what we can't do. As I started bringing people aboard, I always be like, but why can't we do it that way? And people go, well, yeah, you're right. What? You're right. Why can't we do it that way? So let's try. So like I said to you, when I first started looking at the non-alc drinks and I wanted to bring it into the UAE, the idea was to sell them. I didn't know how to. So, okay, how do you sell something? Well, e-commerce seems to be making most sense. We've just been through a period of COVID. The whole ecosystem around e-commerce in the UAE just grew. And it allowed the space for e-commerce players to come in and play, because you had a choice of last mile delivery partners to choose from. There were warehouses opening up for your fulfillment. So it was a really great time to start e-commerce business. So initially, when I brought in my first couple of pallets of non-alcoholic beer and non-alcoholic sparkling wine, Drink Dry was what was the phrase we used? First and premium non-alcoholic drinks marketplace in the UAE, right? This was the tagline that we were going to be a marketplace. Bold, because we had 5 products. I don't know another marketplace with 5 products, So we had to be very creative how we listed the products to make it look bigger. We came up with bundles, etc. So when I started Drink Dry, it was going to be an e-commerce store, marketplace, whatever, e-commerce.
Right.
But something that I did without knowing that there was going to be one of our biggest USPs, when I was working on curating the portfolio and the range, and I was reaching out to the brands and signing them on, I very boldly asked for exclusivity for the whole region. Now, think it's 2020. We are in COVID. All of your traditional distributors that the brands would have gone to have completely battened down the hatches. They have too much money owing in the market. The hospitality is on their hands and knees, so they're not paying the suppliers. The distributors are absolutely not entertaining taking on any new NPDs. They're not going to bring in any new brands in an untapped, unknown category. That's like a biggest no. So the brands have nowhere to go. And technically, they have nothing to lose to give this random lady a go. They have no other option. So my probably best decision that I made very boldly in 2020 was to sign the brands, some global brands, some craft brands, some unknown brands, on an exclusive basis to drink dry for the whole region. I think I put UAE in my first kind of request, and then I pressed delete a few times and I went Middle East, full stop.
Okay.
And I think the brands just thought, well, we have nothing to lose. So we started bringing in all these beautiful brands that the consumers responded to really well. We did a soft launch on the e-commerce on December the 14th. And based on my very vague calculations, we probably had 6 months worth of stock for e-commerce, or at least that's what I thought.
December 14th, 2021.
December 14th, 2020. Soft launch, sent it to friends and family, put it on like random WhatsApp groups, posted on Facebook groups. By the 9th of January 2021, we were flying in stock at a loss to sell because we sold out. And so we brought in the products that consumers resonated with, they loved, with the word of mouth marketing went through the roof for us. And that's how we realized we have something more here, so we can expand. It isn't just consumers, it isn't just e-commerce. And I think it was Choitram's supermarket, the head of procurement approached me on Instagram. He messaged me on Instagram on Boxing Day and he said, "You have some really great drinks, shall we chat?" And I thought, who's this random guy? He's got about 5 followers on Instagram. And I was like, who's this random guy? And so Choitram was our first.
I like how you're assessing his trustworthiness on the number of followers.
Yeah, and he had no profile picture as well. I was like, who's this guy? You're right to be suspicious.
And he just said, "Do you do anything in retail? I'd love to talk to you." And I thought, and then he followed up with another message, and then he said who he is and what he does, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. So he said to us, well, why don't you come in and sell your drinks, because they're new to the market, they're nowhere else. Why do you come in? I'll give you a bit of space in my supermarkets. Let's start with 5 supermarkets. Let's start with our top Choitram's tier supermarkets. We'll give you a bit of space. You bring in a few more products. So let's do it in 3 months' time to give you time to bring in more products and see how it goes. And I thought, right, okay, so there's definitely room for selling in retail. How you do it, I have no idea. I didn't know you had to be a registered vendor. I had no idea. How do you sell into supermarket? But you find out, you figure it out. So retail kind of started to us very naturally. And then I think a few months after, the people were messaging us on Instagram, on WhatsApp, say, "Hey, where do I find your drinks? I'm going out on Friday night, and I don't want to drink. So where can I go to enjoy your drinks?" And the answer was like, "Well, nowhere at the moment, but do you think that would work?" And they were like, "Yeah, like that would be amazing." And my husband uses a really great example for this. If you have 5 guys going out for a drink, right? And one of them is a Guinness drinker. The Guinness drinker will decide and dictate where the other 4 go, because they will go where they pour a really good pint of Guinness, because the other 4 don't care. They'll be able to have a good lager anywhere. And it's the same with somebody in the group who's a non-alc drinker. They will ask, they won't dictate, they will ask and they will suggest to the group to say, "Would you mind if we go to this particular venue? Because I will be able to enjoy a drink there. And you will as well." Yeah. And they will guide the whole group to go to a particular venue. So again, we thought, okay, well, we must...
Opportunity for any F&B venues listening then, so...
Absolutely.
Yeah, crowd control.
Absolutely. So Boca was number one. Boca was number one. We approached them. I knew that Omar is always open to... it's so progressive. You know, you just have to look at what they do with sustainability, food waste, promoting the underdogs all the time. And he said, okay, well, let's try it. Let's put some non-alc beer and some non-alc sparkling wine on there and see what happens. And so that's how we then thought, okay, well, maybe we should sell. Again, didn't know how, what are the channels, what's the right supply kind of route into it. So we started selling into on-trade. And I remember, so they sent us our order, and I'm looking at this piece of paper. And this one, it's just me sitting, you know, as my husband would say, barefoot and pregnant with 2 kids under the age of 3. And I'm sitting in my office, which is a spare bedroom, looking at this purchase order from Boca. And I don't know what to do with it. I have no idea how to deliver to them. What's the next step? So I called somebody and I said, what do I do next? How do I deliver to them? They're like, well, you need to raise an invoice to start with. I was like, how do I do that? What is an invoice? They're like, you don't have an ERP system. I was like, nope. And I looked in the corner of my office and there was a John Lewis box that was delivered that day from the UK. So I opened the box, I took out an invoice and I just copied it. I went into Word and I just copied it. I came up with the logo. I just copied and, you know, the series number 0001. Amazing. And that was the first.
You must have that frame somewhere.
I probably should print it and frame it, yeah. But that was the first invoice I made. And we, you know, who made the delivery? I did. Like, I got into my car, I took the 10 cases of Beers and Me, I followed the instructions they gave us to go into this random loading bay at the back of the IFC at this particular time. And that's how the first delivery...
Do you remember how much it was?
It was 10 cases of Beers and Me. The VAT was probably over 1,000 dirhams. And you know what? Even before that, they called me and they said, can you send us your price list? And I went, right, sure, no problem. And I called my husband and I said, what does the price list look like? And he was like, are you kidding me? He's like, you don't have your prices for on-trade. I was like, well, I don't know. Like, it's for e-commerce, it's easy. You know, it cost me this, I sell it for this. For on-trade is different because what they sell is different. I had no idea. So I just made up some prices that, you know, Boca is probably the only venue to this day that get those prices from us because I didn't know what I was doing. Like, whatever price I gave them, they still buy from us for that price. So there's a lot of moments like that where you don't know what you're doing, but you just try, you know. So when I look at the reports that the sales team send now, and Royal Atlantis is our biggest account by far, and I look at the revenue we generate each month from these accounts, I have no idea how we got there. Genuinely, from 3-4 years ago, you know, making up an invoice on Word, and I didn't have a stamp. I genuinely didn't have a stamp, and I delivered it, and they're like, "There's no stamp on this invoice." I was like, "You need a stamp? Not a problem. I'll come back tomorrow." So I drove to Dera, made a stamp, stamped it, went back the next day.
So you've got just to replay this back to you. You sell D2C. Then you're selling to retail, and then you're also selling to bars.
Yeah, so we started as an e-commerce, and in 2021 for us, e-commerce was the channel. You know, it was the channel. I think we ended the year with probably, I would say, don't quote me on that, but 70% of our revenue came from e-commerce. And that's what during Dry became known as an e-commerce player, a marketplace. Yeah. We were doing Choitrums, and we went in a space of 9 months, we went from 5 stores to 9 to now 15 or 18. Okay. And then we started dabbling in on-trade, where we delivered to, you know, a British pub there and a Boca and et cetera, et cetera. And I hired 2 people. 2021, I hired 2 people. So this is where the kind of the raw basis was laid out. Okay, so we're going to do e-commerce. We're going to do retail. We're going to start working with retailers, and we're going to try to expand our reach and on-trade. And I hired 2 people, and I didn't take a salary. And I worked 20 hours a day. And then when we went into 2022, this is where kind of it started to shift. I think there was already a shift happening in on-trade. And we had some great examples where...
Sorry, on-trade is bars.
Yeah, bars, restaurants, or anything that people go in and consume the drinks, right? Okay. So 2022, I would say our e-commerce, it doubled, but it then became about 40% of our total revenue. And, you know, on-premise picked up, retailers picked up. We onboarded Giant, we onboarded Grandiose, we onboarded Talabat Mart. On-premise was still challenging in terms of, because people didn't know what these drinks were.
Yeah.
There's a lot of training involved. We didn't have the resources. And then if you look at 2023, our e-commerce, I mean, we had the biggest months we ever had was November, December last year. But our e-commerce is only about 30% now of our total revenue.
Wow, so you really diversify. So is your profit margin just based on the drinks, or are you also charging the brands for promotion and leading that promotion here?
Again, it varies. So we almost have two parts to our business. One is e-commerce, and Drink Dry Store is fully commercialized in terms of being an e-commerce. You know, the brands pay us for banners, they pay to have visibility. It's a fully commercialized entity, and then the brands contribute to that. But then when you look at the B2B distribution, what we do in retail and on-premise, we act as a distributor. We buy from the brands, we agree on the marketing budget jointly. So I have to reinvest some of my margin, the brands invest on top of that, and we build the brands together in those two channels. So it's you know, I get confused when I sit down sometimes. I think I have to think twice what we do with what brand and what channels we represent them in. But it just evolved also naturally for us and organically. And I think that's been the biggest advantage of Drink Dry, that we were able to take every brand and make it work for them. You know, if I look at a craft brand from the UK that's got a woman and wife founders, no financial backing to them, the way we work with them is very different. Yet they get so much attention from us because they have an exquisite product. But then when I work with the biggest brewery in the world in alcohol space, and I represent their non-alcoholic beer, Corona Zero, I mean, the conversations are very different. The structure is very different. The KPIs, the deliverables, it's a completely different ball game. So we often have to switch different hats on, and going from one brand conversation to another, you make it work. When I'm talking to a standalone vegan restaurant on Jumeirah Road that are almost, you know, they don't have any set receiving times themselves. Like they don't have purchase orders. They just kind of send us an email what they want. We work with them in a very different way than I work with Al Shire when I'm delivering to 17 PF Changs in the whole of the GCC. So we as a business, I think our biggest skill and the biggest advantage that we have, we are able to work with the small guys, the big guys, and we just make it work for everybody. And I'm so confident that if you asked any of our brand owners or any of the operators we work with, regardless of their scale and their size, they would all say they're amazing. They work around me. You know, they make it work for us.
How big is your sales team now then?
So in total, we're a team of 15 people. So we have back of house admin team, accounts, order processing, HR. We have a marketing team of 4 people, and we have a sales team of another 4 people. We have social media managers. We have, it's a team of 15 people. And I'm the one who's probably least skilled and experienced out of all of them, which is, and I say that with pride, because I think, again, I wanted to make sure that when I was starting to build the team, I brought in people who were a million times better than me in that particular field. So if I'm bringing a marketing manager, she's got to wipe the floor with me when it comes to the knowledge from marketing. When I'm bringing in a commercial director, his commercial understanding of the business has to be exquisite compared to mine, you know? And then you just manage all those people and you make them happy, and the whole system kind of works.
This is the thing when we spoke with John Martis and Valerie about his journey, 20 years at business. Well, actually, it was more than that, wasn't it? We were trying to aging him, but he was saying the same thing, is to surround yourself with experts. It's a famous Richard Branson strategy as well. So with that in mind, still relatively new to the region, what was your recruitment strategy? How did you attract those experts?
Good question. I don't think there was any strategy to start with. The first few people, you know, you just go out and ask friends and family, this is the role. Because I wasn't paying myself a salary, so I didn't have the money for recruitment agencies to pay fees. It was very much just asking people, you know, to recommend somebody, and then you interview them. And I think when I look back, and I think the first 5 people that joined the team, I regularly asked them, what were you thinking? I'm like, what were you thinking?
But they're still here.
They're still here. They're all still here. And I'll give you a prime example. Employee number 2, who's now our commercial director, and he progressed from, business development to head of sales to commercial director. And he comes from incredibly impressive background, ex-Bacardi, ex-Heineken, head of sales for a big company. And then I met him genuinely a week away from giving birth to my 3rd child. In my house, there's no office, there's 2 dogs, there's 2 kids under the age of 3. I'm sitting there 8.5 months pregnant. And it wasn't so much that I was interviewing people, I was pitching Drink Dry and myself. I was asking them to join me on this weird journey that I had kind of had it in my head, and I had this vision, and I was getting, I remember every time somebody was coming for an interview, I felt like it's my role to get them excited enough to join Drink Dry. It wasn't about asking about their skill set, asking about anything else. It was about me selling the idea of Drink Dry to them. And then they joined. They joined the business, and the poor guy, I interviewed him the first interview, or he interviewed me more like. I then go off, have a child, and then he comes back to my house 4 days later, and I'm no longer pregnant. And he's 20-something at this point, and he's looking, and he doesn't know, do I say something? Is she just a bit chubby? Has she had the child? Has she not had the child? I think it took him 4 months to actually address that. He said, I was so confused in my second interview, because I saw you on Thursday one week, and then I saw you on Thursday the next week, and I didn't know what to say. Like,
Just one big dinner.
Yeah, he's like, wait, did you have this baby? Did you not? So there was no strategy in terms of who I was recruiting for the first probably 5 people. And obviously after that, things change. We use LinkedIn. This is our most amazing tool that we use for recruitment. We have worked with a few recruitment agencies for the last few recruits because they're very specific, very specialized. So we needed assistance. But before you get to that point, there are many other ways you can recruit people.
I think this is kind of quite familiar speaking to other members in the group, is that when they get past that kind of magic number 5, because it feels like such a tight family, to then recruit, it's such a big jump, and you don't want to upset the dynamic of the group. You're also scaling, so you're having to let go a little bit and trust more people. Was that magic number 5 and then growing, did that the same for you?
Yeah, I think the number 5 absolutely is correct. You do feel, I don't believe in like Drink Dry family, because we'll work together, we still work colleagues, but there is a sense of camaraderie. Like when we were the 5, it was like the 5 musketeers, like people, the same stories that I have about making that first invoice, not knowing what to do. The other 4 would have similar stories where they came in and they took on a role that there wasn't a role before. So they had to make up things. And so they'd have similar stories. And I think after the next 5, you already put in a bit of a process in place. We got an ERP system, the free version of it to start with, but we had something that we were already able to give to the next kind of round of people joining. I was very clear from beginning, and I felt that my biggest objective and my role when the next 5 came in is to make sure that the gelling happened between the old recruits, the new recruits, that everybody was open to letting go. Everybody was, we had to take a lot of knowledge we had in our heads and put it on paper, because when you're a small team, we all knew the price list here. So when somebody came and said, can you share your price list with all your brands? We were like, what do you mean? I can tell you, write it down. I'll tell you what it is. And like, no, it doesn't work that way. So the team had to accept that there were a lot of things that weren't done properly and they were being challenged. And that was difficult for them when somebody coming in and almost criticizing what you've done for the last 18 months. Well, you haven't got that. Oh, you haven't got that. So we have to make this. So it was difficult for the first 5 because they were being almost criticized for what they haven't done. But it was the right thing to do because we had to get better and more efficient. And it was just managing those dynamics. But, we've lost one person along the way. And it was a mutual decision for them to go. It wasn't the right fit for us. But on the whole, we've managed to make it work.
Give us a sense of scale.
In what way?
In number one might be revenue or sales or how many orders processed every month, or team members. So whichever one you're comfortable with.
Okay, so I
And
can
you
do all of them.
launched in December 2020, your soft launch.
Yeah.
That was what, if you can give us a comparison from then to now, just to give us a sense of that growth.
Okay, so I'll start off with the team members. So 2020 was just me. 2021, my due date for my third child was at the end of March. And on the 8th of March, my husband sat me down and he said, you have got to have a plan B. You're giving birth in 20 days. So that's when the employee number one came in. And so we ended the year of 2021, 3 of us in the team, 2 of them getting a salary, me not.
And what's the roles that you're hiring?
Office manager and sales.
Great.
I mean, I think you took the title of business development, but it was go out there and find out how do we get more business in on-premise in retail. You just go out and find out.
Figure out.
Let's see what we do. You know, bring more of those things called purchase orders.
Yeah.
That was the kind of the brief. So that was 2021. 2022, we ended the year 7 of us.
Yeah.
And 2023, we ended the year on 15 people. So we recruited 8 people last year, which was hard. It was challenging from every single way. And that's a whole kind of different conversation.
And what's your first 5 hires? So you got...
So I had office manager.
Yep.
I had business development.
Why do you need an office manager?
I mean, what else do you give a person? What title do you give to somebody who you're literally saying to them in an interview, you need to be a jack of all trades. Like, you're not going to put a jack of all trades. So you go, well, office manager? They're like, okay.
Okay. So it's not that there's not much of an office to manage, but they're basically just managing everything else.
Absolutely. It wasn't managing people. It was managing things.
Fine.
You know,
So that's,
everything.
Yep.
Then we hired, the next role was support to the office manager, because just the sheer admin, the order processing just was insane.
Yeah.
So that was number 3. Number 4 was another kind of person in the sales team. So scaling on the just another body in the market. Then we brought in a graphic designer, because we're in e-commerce, and what we saw that we were spending so much money for external graphic design that it just became cheaper for us to hire somebody in-house and have that resource. The person after that, I think we went into marketing then. So we started developing our marketing team. We brought in e-commerce manager, we brought in marketing manager, we brought in social media manager.
So this is when it became a bit more narrow. So it's your first 5 hires were broad, bring in sales.
Entirely.
Get things done.
Absolutely.
And then you're now narrow.
And like I say to you, those people have their own stories. They'd say to you, it was mad. On Monday, a sales guy is maybe doing deliveries because...
sure. Who else is going to do it?
Who else is going to do it? And then, you know, he's selling for another 3 days. And then day 4, he is serving drinks somewhere at a BBG event, you know. So it was, their roles were so, I mean, the title was entirely irrelevant, what they were given, because they were doing everything.
But it's so invested that way.
So invested.
So they then can appreciate, can train, can fill in gaps in the future.
We've just hired someone called Mariam, who's actually here. Where we're in the same situation. We're like, you do that, and that. So what do we call this? So we're in that mix. So it's nice to hear that.
So in terms of scale, so that's how we kind of went from HR perspective. Mm-hmm. In terms of revenue, I'll give you a percentage. So in 2022, we were 113% up from the year before in terms of revenue. Last year, we were 117% up, and this year we are targeting 84% growth from what we generated last year. It's punchy. I mean, when I present the budgets to the team every year, the eyes are similar to yours right now. Everybody's like, you've lost the plot. I'm like, I know, but we're going to do it.
So you're averaging 100% growth year on year.
Correct. The different channels generate different growth, you know, but it's a bit of a snowball effect, and it sounds scary to the team. And I think the first few years were scary because we didn't know where it was going to come from. So I would just put these numbers in there and I'd say roughly from here. But I didn't know which exact client or which particular contract, but it'd be like here, you know? big goals. But then this year, if I look at our budget, I mean, I know exactly where every dirham is going to come from because we have a lot of existing clients.
Yeah.
We have a lot of actual conversations happening that, we have end dates. The menu has to go live in October. So we know what that will look like. And it's scary in terms of revenue, but it's a lot more relaxed for the team because they know that it's achievable. They know where it's coming from. Yeah.
Well, how mobile are you around the GCC then? If you've claimed that exclusivity for the Middle East,
Well, then,
how concentrated is it around the GCC?
so once you ask for exclusivity for the whole region, there's a pressure to deliver as well.
A bit of travel.
A bit of travel. So we launched our three predominant markets is UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. And then we do a little bit through select clients in Oman, Bahrain, and Qatar, Maldives. As well, we're looking into Jordan, but these are what we call secondary markets. If they come through, great. We don't focus too much on them. But Saudi, Kuwait, and UAE are the big three for us. We launched our e-commerce platform in Kuwait in July 2022. So we are 18 months in. We have fantastic partners in both of these markets. So we do work with distribution partners in those markets. But we heavily support them in terms of sales, in terms of co-funding the roles to represent our portfolio, in terms of marketing. So our marketing team is KPI'd, not just for the UAE, but also what they deliver in Saudi, what they deliver in Kuwait. And Saudi is challenging. UAE is our bread and butter. It's where we are. It's easy for us because we are here. And I really admire companies who start in one country and manage to have the same growth in other markets because it's so challenging. You are physically not there and you don't have your eyes and ears in those markets. You are relying on really good partners, if anything. So Saudi is challenging and it has been challenging, but we're not giving up, nobody's giving up. You've got to be there to benefit from the growth.
There's definitely a market there because when I was in Saudi last year and we went for a dinner and I had a non-alcoholic version of a sparkling wine and it was ghastly. As soon as you can get in there.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of work to be done there. So, but UAE is our bread and butter. Saudi, Kuwait is good. One of the things that we did very successfully last year, the team targeted regional contracts. So if you look at players like Al Shaya, they have Cheesecake Factory, P.F. Chang's, and other kind of brands in terms of hospitality. And we rolled out a really successful menu with them in UAE back in November, Kuwait in December, and Saudi going live or went live last week. Now, that helps us on that whole coverage where we have one partner, one menu, the same drinks, consistency, one supply kind of agreement.
Backing on all the processes.
Exactly. It's really, the amount of work you have to put in to get there, it's enormous and it's scary and it takes a lot of time, but the reward is so much greater than just doing it in one specific country. So that's something that we've done successfully last year and we want to do more of that.
Can you describe your marketing KPIs a bit more?
Okay, I think my marketing manager will probably leave after she hears it all.
Don't tell her about the podcast.
Yeah. Look, it's really diverse. So you've got e-commerce.
Yeah.
And in terms of the e-commerce, we are educational platform. We are advocating the category. And these are the things that we have to do, but are not necessarily revenue generating and tangible. But if we don't do them, so they're hard to measure, but we have to do them. So if you look on our Instagram, we are so content heavy in terms of telling people about the products, educating, and that takes time and production and everything else. But then we have to also generate revenue from everything that we do. So they are KPI'd on the revenue generation as well. Then you've got retail. So you've got visibility for the brands and you're managing multiple brands. Usually a company will manage maybe one or two brands. We have about 34 different brands that we represent and we have to give them the same amount of love, the same amount of attention into what we do. So you've got retail visibility and it's not just the revenue. There's a lot more that comes before that. So you have to ensure visibility. You have to ensure experiential marketing from the brands as well before you get to the revenue part. And then you go into on-premise, which for me is just a complete minefield. That is the most fascinating, difficult to execute because you have so many different marketing activations going live. You know, we have a mojito activation in one venue, we have a sangria activation in the other one, we have Fresa Froze, frozen cocktails in beach clubs, we have a beer and a burger going live in 57 venues. So it's just managing a lot of different places.
Is this where agencies come in?
Yeah, but I have a very talented team, and you know, three people do the job of probably about 33. So it's, you know, and we don't get it right perfectly. And I think this has been the biggest learning for me, that you can strive for perfection, and it's great, and we do, but we accept imperfections because we still move. Because if you don't do anything because you haven't polished it up perfectly, you're not moving. You're not getting anything. To get something at 50% perfection, 60, 70, 80, it's better than nothing. It's you know, it's not better than 100%, but it's better than nothing. And I think us being a new player, we are free to make mistakes. You know, it's a lot of the things that we try to do, we're the first ones to do it. So there is no guide how to do it. There are no kind of regimented brackets that we're being squeezed into. And we can try. And if we fail, we just put it somewhere in the drawer and say, we're never doing that again. We'll just do something else.
Has there been a big learning? Because you shared your biggest sort of success and, you know, the NDA and everything. But what about, so not NDA, the exclusivity. But what do you look back and think? Is there something that really glares in the back and you think, oh, wished I'd not done that?
Yeah. I think we've made some bad marketing decisions where we put all our eggs in one basket. You know, I'll give you a very simple example. We spent $7,000 last year in March trying to explore and work and see if paid influencer marketing works for us, and it did not. It was a complete waste of money, but what we have learned from that was invaluable. Multiple mistakes. You know, actual financial detrimentally, where, you know, for a small business, $7,000, it's a huge amount of money, and if you use that in a smarter way, that can go months, that can last you months, you know. But we decided, and it was a joint decision, that there's no finger pointing or anything else, and it was actually led by me, and I insisted we try this because I've been wanting to try it for 2.5 years. We never had the money to do it. This was the first time we did, and I wanted to. I
feel like a lot of businesses, like including myself, feel like that specifically for influencer marketing for our business. I felt like that for 12 to 18 months and gone, is this going to work for us? I hear good things, I hear bad things, and it's nice to hear.
We got some really great content out of it, and the influencers were fantastic in terms of what they delivered. It just did not generate the return on our investment. And that's, we are a transactional marketplace. Like, we are a business that if I spend 100, I need to generate 3.
Of course.
So it was just from the ROI that we didn't generate that.
So let's flip that actually. So if it's a food or drinks brand coming to this region looking to launch, what's 3 things? I was going to say 1, but I thought let's make this harder. What's 3 specific things that you would tell them specifically on what needs to happen to actually make sales?
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard question.
So as direct as possible, please.
I would probably first ask them if they're the right market fit for this market. Yeah. So if you F&B, the taste profile is very important. Yep. Again, we've had some brands that we brought in, and it hasn't done, they haven't failed, but they haven't done as well as we have expected, because the consumers here have different taste profiles to what maybe their home market has, right? It could be too sweet, too bitter, too sour, too whatever else. So is there a natural fit for this market when it comes to have you got
a formula that you follow now when you're launching a new product? Do you run like a market research? Do you bring a focus group?
This is literally probably the worst thing I could say right now, but when it comes to brands and onboarding new brands, it's here. The decision still, it's in my gut. When I look at a brand, look, it's a no-brainer to onboard Corona Zero or Peroni 00 or Tanqueray 00. There's a no-brainer. You just grab it and you run before they change their mind. But when it comes to more craft, more difficult brands to launch, for me, it comes from here. And to this day, one of the things that I still haven't let go, it's the brands that we onboard. You know, I will bring the brands to the table, to the wider team and say, I've done my homework. I believe these would work. And then the commercial team step in and they're like, well, the value chain works, it doesn't work, you know, and then other conversations happen. I always look personally at the team behind the brand, because that matters so much. For us, it's a make it or break it from my experience. The teams behind the brand, you can have the most beautiful brand with great marketing support, but there isn't a great team behind the brand for whatever reason. Maybe this market isn't a focus for them. Maybe they're not excited to work with us. Maybe it's an afterthought. Whatever is the reason, that is a recipe for disaster. Because if you don't have that connection with your distributor, and chemistry and capability as well from the team. I think we now, initially it's chemistry, but now as we scale as well, we need capability. We need, of course, the brands to give us what we need. So I think market fit, do they have the resources to come into another market? Because a lot of the times brands have great success in their home country, their home market, and they think, well, we need to grow. The natural step is export, and we go into other markets. But do you have the resource, people-wise and financially, to grow? Because if you are a founder-led business in the UK where you have a great brand, it's you. You're going out there doing the tastings, you're doing all of that stuff, and therefore your brand will organically grow. Are you able to replicate the same thing in another market? And how are you going to do it? Are you going to pay somebody? Are you going to fly in? So are you giving up your resource and time? How are you going to grow that brand in the other market? So I think these would be the three things.
Can I just ask for a fourth? I just want to know, like, you talked about sales being part of the first three roles, and you said, go figure out, go get me more sales. So can you just walk through that process? Like, how do you approach a hotel or a restaurant or a bar, a retailer? What do you do on the sales side? What does that look like?
Initially, you'd utilize networks like BBG. You utilize networks, the mums network at school. So the first meetings you would have, or we had, myself, my colleague Johnny, the Rhino who joined us, it's through a personal network, right? So you just get in through the door. Because we didn't really have much concrete, solid evidence to give them why should they list non-alc drinks. So initially it was just on the network basis. But now when we are, if I was approaching a hotel group, we would take a really deep dive into their current menu offering and look at the missed revenue opportunity that they're currently experiencing. So I'll give you an example. If they have 4 mocktails on their list, no non-alcoholic beer, no carafes, sangrias, nothing of a sharing concept, if it fits their hospitality, and they have 3 or 4 mocktails on their list, selling at 25 dirhams. We would then come in with the pitch and we would make the numbers align, and we would design a mock-up menu for them to show them what it would look like by including our product. So all of a sudden, if you are leveling up your mocktails and you are making them taste better, you're making them look better, you can charge 35 dirhams. So you are generating extra 10 dirhams cash revenue by maybe investing only 2 or 3 by using our products. If you're adding a non-alcoholic beer option and you are able to charge 35 dirhams, that's immediately adding extra revenue. So our biggest argument that we now have, it's about the incremental revenue that our drinks are able to help you as an operator generate without needing to bring more bums on seats or without needing to spend anything additional. It's just by increasing the price that people are paying at the end. And there's so many different arguments we have in terms of a mocktail. If a mocktail has 600 calories and you're charging them 25 dirhams, you replace the recipe with our drinks, the calorie intake drops to say 220, 150, people will have 2 or 3 and they're spending extra 10 dirhams more. So once we clicked onto that the best argument we can have
Such a good argument
with our operators.
Bespoke as well as you're actually you're addressing an issue that they didn't realize they had.
Exactly.
And you've already got a solution.
Exactly.
It's bespoke.
Exactly. Because when you go to them, when you say, oh, about customer experience, you want to be the first to market, it's great.
It's hard to measure, isn't it?
It's hard to measure. And it's great. And we still do that. But then you go, and actually, I'm able to show you, we made an assumption that you sell 50,000 mojitos a year, just based on that. And this is what it looks like at the moment in terms of revenue. And this is what it would look like. So you come in with actual numbers and they go, what, am I going to make extra 500,000 dirhams by doing nothing? We're like, correct. We will develop the recipes for you. We will train your team. We will reprint the menus for you. We will come in every month to retrain. We will run promotions, limited time offers. We will talk about you on Instagram, we'll send influencers. We will do all of that for you. It is impossible to say no. You put them in a position.
Yeah.
Very compelling.
That's very, very interesting. There's a couple of things you just said there. So the fact that up front you're investing the time, actually analyzing what they have currently. This is before you've even met, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you're trying to grab their interest. And so you're probably calling them, walking in, sending them an email, LinkedIn message, etc.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Then during that meeting, you're actually impressing them with this mock-up that they're not expecting to see. So you've now that's amazing. And then you've probably got enough volume in the past to go, here's what's happened. You can see the pattern. And I know what you care about most. Obviously, customer experience is there, but they're judged on how much they said. And you solve that. And you show that transformation. Here's where you are now. And here's where we talk about that. A lot of our businesses show the transformation, show the result. And you're showing that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it takes a, if anyone is listening to what you just said, there's a lot of investment on our side that comes about to happen, but it's real account-based market. It's investing. Yeah, there's plenty of showing to few people. Just this bit, I think it's really interesting. Not just for a food and beverage, but I think everyone. It's like right now, marketing's too generic, too open, let's just put out there for the world to see. But I love what you've just said. It's very direct to the site. Which should always be about the client, and actually your client is then also helping the consumer. So the ripple effects are huge of actually what you're doing.
Yeah. This is why I was greedy, Kate.
Yeah, true.
See?
All right,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about growing a business as a female entrepreneur.
Okay, before we answer that, I have a question that I'll throw it. Do you like being referred to as a female entrepreneur? Because we never, in our other interviews, we wouldn't say, how do you fit as a male? Good question.
But then we don't have a men's day, do we?
Yes, you do, actually. It was Men's Day in November. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I actually know that. They're already done.
Everybody already.
Never truly. A bit female entrepreneur. I don't know if that goes against popular opinion, and I hope it doesn't set other women listening to that. I think being referred to as female entrepreneur, word entrepreneur, it's my superpower. It adds more to who I am. So that's my personal opinion. So if I'm looking at resumes, if I'm looking to that space where you're looking at CVs, you have no idea what that person looks like in terms of, you don't have to know me. If I see a female, the little pizza that, if she's upset, I'm like, you're it. Like, you get into, pass them for seconds to do. Being a woman, an entrepreneur, female, mother, these are superpowers. These are our superpowers. And for me, if somebody says, I'm a female entrepreneur, a mother of 3 kids, I do this, that, I immediately have a better understanding what kind of professional we are, that they can multitask, that they can handle a lot of different situations that they can go from. My daughter just monitored at school or broke her hand to
literally stepping into a pitch and leaving that in the corridor and doing a pitch. And the moment she leaves that pitch, she's back on the phone to her daughter. It's a skill. So describing me as a female entrepreneur, I take it. You help the listener to validate me more because I'm extra talented, because I have this innate ability among that.
And I resonate with that as well. That our leadership team is females with kids, and the mums, their ability to, and my wife as well, her ability to multitask.
That's not to say that men don't or can't. I think I'm just stress that it's about what we're turned. And I'm happy for you to call me female and
I suppose it's by you're obviously role modeling for everybody in the team as well. And you've got young children. So when we spoke with another I guess that we had Marissa Peer, her advice was narrowing down. So whatever you're doing, you can 100% to. So you're at home, 100% further away. How disciplined are you, honestly, about that?
I made significant improvements in 2023.
Yeah.
And I found myself about it. It was really challenging. I got intentions and goals set for 2024. The first 2 years of Wellington Diet was disaster. In terms of personal life, it was disastrous. I was pregnant, I had Sylvie, 2 kids. I had a person who all of a sudden went from having a wife who was 24 years younger than him, and CFO wife greeting him by the door with dinner ready, and doing everything for him possible to literally not having a life. Not having anyone. He lost his best friends, just lost his wife. We were not going to bed at the same time. He'd go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock. I come in at 3. So it was really incredibly challenging from the personal perspective. I failed as a friend, I failed as a daughter, I failed as a sister, I failed as an aunt, I failed as a mother. I gave birth to my daughter on Sunday. I was back at work on Tuesday. Who does that? Who does that? It's very true. There's a fair amount of insanity in that. It was a conscious decision.
I think entrepreneurs are insane.
True. I didn't know I was one. And I didn't know I was one. And I still don't think I am one. I don't know what it is. But I had such a clear why that it was burning inside that I gave birth on Sunday. I was back in my office on Tuesday. I stood in front of 5 chefs 4 days after giving birth, practically in a anatomy kind of rice. Because there's the insanity, don't do that. But I did it, and the results started to come in, but I had to retrain myself to go back. I what that looks like? We went in summer holiday with my family, my parents, my sister, kids, my whole family. And there was a consensus from everybody. There was like a therapist session. They came to me and said, this is how it's going to go. We're going to time at a place, and you're going to lock up your phone in a safe. Intervention. And we're going to, your office can contact me, my sister, the husband, if it's an emergency. But if not, you have to just all cold turkey file. So, that's what I had to do. And it's really challenging to know why to make that shit.
Somebody has to make it for you.
Yeah, it was like me. So to answer the question, how do I manage it? I think 2023, I made a lot of significant changes. And this is a whole new conversation when it comes to women in business and how we operate. I'll give an example. I think the change I made in 2023. Well, let's go back. And in 2013 or 14, I got married. I left my job in London. And then I had a handshake where I said to him, you go up and you completely, I'll pick up the pieces in everything. I will do the school runs for your bed, 20-year-old son. I'll go to parents' evening. I will design turkey show for that. I will look after the state. I'll do the finances, the house. I can do everything. You go and do what you need to do. And we did that. And we had this agreement for 5 days. And he flourished. He brought home incredible financial mentors to us. We have a brilliant life because he business success that then led to financial success for us foundry. So the deal was mutually beneficial. But I worked with Ira. I did not, the 60-hour days doing CUT, everything, a lot of emotional and it was great. It was great. It was for me quite pen. And then what I realized is a lot of women do that we do all this, and then when we're going into a workplace, when we're going back, we don't have the support network before I start back at home. Mm-hmm. So we still think we're going to do the 60-hour days that we were doing at home, plus perform at work and do everything that we did. Mm. So in the last 2 years, I got myself personal assistants who manages to tweak their school emails, as I did here, made the house, not just family agendas. I hired a driver, we assigned the goal in 1 or 2 less holidays a year. I will sacrifice other things. But I need it for my sanity. My husband cannot stop being the CEO of this company and start managing a house. That's not how it works. But now both of us are in equally important positions. It's a doable. I have 2 nannies, a PA, and a driver. It is 4 people are doing the job that I was previously doing once that.
And that's that's the biggest benefit of being in Dubai, right?
Absolutely.
Is that support for growing your business.
Yeah, but without that, I think I wouldn't have been able to. So I think it would be hypocritical of me to say I made these changes in the last 2 years. I'm so much better at it and I'm doing all of this stuff. If I wasn't truthful in what that looks like in the background, it looks like for other people. So I didn't just say, I'm going to switch on the platform, and it looks like Erika doing everything on her own with Edger and Dry. And over 15 equal-based salaries. So, sometimes I can switch off that platform and something I'll soon make up the pieces because there's 15 other people at work and 4 other people at home. I can switch off, but I think it's not fair and it's not true and it's insincere when people in their bid for this chat and say, well, I made these changes and it is what I did without telling you what that looks like because of the actual argument. It doesn't just happen by itself.
But I suppose as well, it's to sustain you. So even if you did away from all the other support and carried on, you wouldn't last. I mean, that's where the burnout's one of the biggest issues, particularly in Dubai. And also we don't have a family network, so we don't have somebody that you can call on. And we don't like to ask either.
That's the biggest challenge. Yeah.
We won't take away stick with your accent. We are these super people that have got it. Yeah. On the top. I am so proud of you open in the challenge I have a person like in business. And I share, if I have this policy at work that we all share our calendars with each other and everybody puts in everything in their calendar. A dentist appointment, a manager appointment, a child's school day, anything. Commons counseling, you put it in the diary. If you don't want the people to know what it is, you put private appointments, do nothing with. And then everybody has visibility on their personal life, your business life, and how that interacts together, right? Because if I really want somebody to impact on my personal life, I just felt why. I'd people have a lot more understanding that if they know, I take my daughter to therapy in 2 weeks. And whatever happens, I will help you with that appointment. Yeah. And people, if I just said, it's a private appointment, I'll do that. Really cannot, maybe you could. But if I say, Mom, they weren't able therapy, I will really genuinely care about that. Yeah. And then you'll communicate that to the person that tried to get me to the morning. She cannot do that because it's a really big, I think business is now like that. I don't know, maybe it comes from company culture, maybe it's not accepted when it comes to a big corporate company. And you as you as three are not strong enough to implement that. Yeah. And I think, that's a whole conversation about me. And it needs to be,
I think it does have. I'm glad to see it's starting to happen, but very gradually. So 2 big firms I know have a bring your whole self to work. So before any big projects, everybody sits around the table. And obviously with all the different, backgrounds and where everybody's from, it's different time zones of where you need to call in and speak to my mother, or you need to check on whatever of the school.
I've got some sisters and that. I think that,
and it's exactly what you're doing already. And it's it's good to start seeing it. But the more people can do that, then going back to why can't we, this untapped talent pool of people that can work but can't are restricted. And we're only talking about childcare. It could be any other reason. It could be elderly care. And I see it as a huge opportunity.
And it's got to make, I'm just thinking about how we applied to our business. We had a conversation at work with someone in our team who wanted to work from home on Fridays, and my response was, I really don't care. As long as the delivery is there and the funding is there, there's transparency. There's no issues from my side,
Yeah.
I think that phrase, bring your whole self to work.
We're so stunned it's 9 to 5, but actually it's nobody really works 9 to 5. But then if you can almost steal that, I personally have this barometer where I know where I put in too much somewhere, and I can give and take, and I think, well, I was at an evening event, for example, till 10 o'clock at night, so I can go in a little bit later, or I can.
Yeah.
I don't worry, I'm stuck in traffic. I can probably make a phone call.
Only when it accepts from that, it's where you say, you as paladin go buying something that works from home. I think it's important to then let your wider team know why that person was working from a pirate, because that brings in, it just helps the team. And I'll give you an example. One of our team members, she works from home on Wednesdays, and I knew why she works from home on Wednesday, but the rest of the team didn't know. And she was being asked, me seeing this like affects my dad. And then eventually, because I'm going to say it, I didn't realize that I should have told them, but I should have told them that the reason you can't come in and say is because she shares with her brother. She lives right on the other side of Sharjah, and she has another way to get to work on Wednesday. If he wants her to come in, she's losing 4 hours on a day to come in. So please call twice. If you don't really want to get to the middle, like I say, once we share that openly in the team meeting, if she shares with her brother, so she's sending me a town up. It's a highlight.
It's highly reasonable.
Pardon me, to the next day, they're trying to make that work. She'd have it come in on Wednesday. So, and it would take the 4 hours.
Yeah, and I think the context of that is really more.
Giving a context and transparency, I feel takes it one step further and one step deeper, and it avoids the question on throwing away it. So it works about a mission in a different situation. So then actually share with you, well, this is actually the reason why I need to do this on the first 38. Yeah.
So as we come to a close, I wanna go back to a bit of business. So you've raised funds. And me, along with hundreds of thousands of businesses in the UAE, are looking at raising investment. And personally, from my experience, it's should I go VC? Should I go family office? Should I go angels? Then having conversations in my own experience with VCs, where get more, the responses get more traction. They don't really understand the business, and then suddenly, and I went through this journey over the last time. What ends up happening is you end up focusing on raising investment when actually your business is taking a hit. And I'm like, I'm only one founder, I can't do both. And I'm having these fluffy conversations, and it was just too fluffy for me to go, this is important right now. So I switched, and I just need to grow. I just need to focus on revenue, I need to focus on growth. If this happens by accident, then we'll entertain it. And that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
But so I would love to, and I have the same conversation, similar experience across many founders. I'm in a community called M5 Tech, which and you can tell from the name, it's tech startups, which are trying to disrupt and do very interesting things in globally UAE. So we have the same conversations. We'd love to hear your experience, just on that, and then go.
So I don't have the perfect answer. What I can do, I can share our story and my story, and my learning for various things. But I think the most important thing that I learned to ask myself is first, what is my current business? So where I ties, because there's so much to do the information, exactly what you just said, and it becomes overwhelming. It's to stop and say, what is the right thing for my business? The industry I operated
what is the right thing in that industry? What is the right thing behind this model? What is the right thing for me? Like, do I want the professional industry? What do I want? So, I mean, that is a race. You've got to ask those questions. And in my opinion, anything I've done in dry it was just happening. I had such an open night, and I've always made decisions, create the information I can at a moment in time, and never regretted any decisions, because I may know in other time with information I got. Maybe a decision 6 months down the line looks now school way part, but I didn't know what I didn't know, so how can I make a different decision? So in terms of rating and balance in the business, in order to grow from a one person who isn't taking a salary to now having 50 well-paid professionals, it takes investment. It takes investment, because however fast you grow, there's cash flow. And saying that cash flow is king, and that was an absolute reality in every company. So we did get external investment into our business. So when I initially started Drink Dry, my husband and I, we agreed that, because I was investing in our family funds, and I'm very open to share that, I was investing what we had saved, what we'd saved, how, and it's kids, whatever it is. And they agreed on to invest up to 200,000 dirhams. They said, go buy it, but this, you can, why do we do it now? And then everybody's in the safe place where you can go, you can invest up to 200,000 dirhams and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, it's not a massive loss. And if it does, great.
Yeah.
So from the moment we started trading, which was fully trading, January 2021, to the day where I got external investment, and I'll tell you about that, I had invested 2.2 million dirhams of our own money. Now, you can imagine what that does to marriage, what that does to anything. Just one sanity check, you are plowing absolutely everything into the business idea that you don't have a business plan, you don't have a vision, but you want to do it. So by the time I got external investment, I was very heavily invested into the business myself. Mm-hmm. And the feeling of that, the good from that is that you are able to make decisions for yourself. You don't have any external pressure. So if you decide not to invest in an opportunity and it turned out to be a great thing, you made a hard decision. If you decided not to invest in an opportunity and you missed it, there's no external pressure coming from you. And I had not on my plate. I had just been about, I was just going through the whole shift in my marriage. I didn't need another external pressure for me. Mm-hmm. So it allowed me the freedom to make decisions that I wanted to make for my business, because I felt lonely. The downside of that is huge risk. I exposed myself and my family to enormous risk by losing all that money. Luckily, we did this. So imagine this is 2021. We got this e-commerce. We started to work with retailers. We are making time and deliveries to bulk out X, Y, Z. And people in the industry, other distributors, are starting to see us like who's this little nuisance company that are hanging out? Like, what are they doing? They're not in. I'll handful of approaches where they always so small, but under an insignificant that you supply us to either get us or to let us do what we want to do. Now, it didn't excite me, because the vision I had for the business was so big and so round that traditional distribution company couldn't even, they thought I was a lunatic. I'm sure they thought I was a lunatic when I was telling them that I want to become, my goal from day one was, I want to become a third drinks player in this market. Next to wine, next to A, we just happen to do that. That is the only difference. We want to be as big, as important, doing not out. I was not our offices, so it's insane. So we had come up approaches on what we would do as traditional kind of business from what we were doing. That didn't work for me. You see, we had nothing to prove. I don't think we would have, I would have been nothing that you'd sincere if I said in 2021, we could have gone on to these days. Yeah. We probably couldn't have, and I didn't want to. And then we got approached by a private town government
and somebody who built anything that sells. So somebody who was a family once, somebody who had once invested $2.2 million or something like that in UAE, somebody who had gone through a lot of things that I was starting to go through. And they had not given diverse business interest in hospitality, food tech, things that make sense why they would be investing into us. It doesn't make sense. If you invest in this wacky idea, surely then I understand why you invest in us. And it took me really special interest that they like to come on board, whatever that looks like to me, whether it's setting up my own share or whatever that looks like to me. And then it's a little while, it took me a little while to kind of get on board with that. And the tipping point for that was where so we had a lot of meetings with myself, my husband, the people from that company, but not the person themselves, not the person who is the worker here at the Erika family office. And I remember back in the head, excellence. I mean,
So you never met the founder up until that point?
No, I met his CEO. I met his, I had an insurance with him, and that's great, and the problem was really nice, but I never had in-depth conversations with him. And that's his other people. And then it was twice out of them to send up, just so terrific wishlist. And I messaged her and I said, could we meet, you and I, no entourage, and just chat? Because I thought, if I'm opening the door to an investor, I need to know what you like. What is it going to be like working with you? Because on the day-to-day basis, I have to work with a big team. I have to work with the CFO, your CEO, I have to work with all these people, and I get that. But when shove comes to push, what are you like as a person? And we started typing 4.5 hours. I cried because he asked me really personal questions. Why is that dry? What it looks like going to work to be South a first one, third term. And we connected. And I felt like this was the person who he would get, would back himself, he would understand if we wanted to make changes, this would be the person who would understand and get it. And then it took us another 6 months on the valuations, the paperwork, the documentation, anything else that we then, in a step back, you put on your big girlfriend on and go to properly negotiate, right? So, and it's a start from negotiating the valuation for us. We negotiated the cash in, cash out. So I managed to get all the money invested on my side. They put in and invested in the business. They opened up a loan job facility for us. And when other changes came in, when we were very faster than we expected and more money was needed than we initially said we did a tactical. So there was a lot of pragmatic decisions being made from that side and our side. And it worked for us as a business. And I stress that. It worked for me as an outlet. It worked for us as business. We probably should look at the next step in terms of, the business is now on grow to a point where the next round of investment has to be in tens of millions rather than 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million. It's got to be in the region of tens of millions dollars investment. And it is no longer the two of us that can do. We need to go wider and bigger and understand who that partner is going to be. But they were the right position for me at that time. And we did talk to those ancient Eastern funding last year. We went through to the final of a startup then, which was on the Kisha IT Summit, which is a big deal in our industry, right? Anybody really finding anybody working in the SaaS industry that, and we selected one of the 12 startups to pitch for whatever the price was. It was a big deal. When I kind of looking together, when people who were pitching it, I'm so confused with that because these were tech founders in started R&D, selling pre-seed, selling actually revenue generating. They were solving big problems in tech and I was so confused with that because everything we thought was just so organic and just looking at the e-commerce, I'm not trying to retail. And when I got up and I did my pitch, and then eventually won the then. And I had access to these 3 incredible lines from 3 different VCs. And when I actually got, when I said, why did you choose us as a consensus at a winning startup? It didn't give me crucial feedback in terms of something that the listees want to see, and they see that as a big strength that I didn't see. Something that we put in our pitch deck that was almost like an afterthought for us. That's what we got then, and this is what excited them as a BC. So the question is, what was it? That's it. So one of the things is that I'm super. I'm not even that.
I missed it.
So currently, Drink Dry is a brand. So what we've done, we are a distributor and our supplier, but we've also done a great job in building the brand of Drink Dry,
Right.
that under which we then represent the likes of Corona Zero, the likes of Corona Zero, and every other brand under the down Drink Dry. And the importance why the brand of Drink Dry is important is we've created trust with the consumer. Mm-hmm. So it's foresight, not Apple wood, but if we were saying a donkey to people, they're buying it because they trust Drink Dry as a brand, right? And it's something that we, as part of different conversations we had, I think we should launch our own non-alcoholic drinks brand. It is Drink Dry. So whether it's a wine, whether it's a beer, whether it's spirit, I don't know. So, but we will launch our own Miss Drink Dry brand, right?
Yeah, you kind of highlight that earlier. When my mind went into my mind focused on that when you mentioned A&E and MMI, and then you placed yourself next to it. Thank you so much for sharing your story behind raising. For those raising funds, that is, for those that are just listening to the podcast during Erika's description, she shed a tear, and I can tell that's a really big moment for you. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on all of your success. So on that note, where can people find Drink Dry?
So if you are exploring or you are interested or intrigued by the non-alcoholic concept in general, and you are just a consumer, head over to drinkdrystore.com and you'll find the whole selection. We are 100 products available from not only beers, wines, spirits, cocktails, there's educational videos, there's everything with there. Look us up on Instagram, Drink Dry Store. There's a lot of fun consumer-facing content on that. And if there are anyone listening from society industry or SMB, and you are interested in the concept and you think, I will need that company that makes money without doing anything, but just wiping the drink right. And then you like to get tip on one BG and social connect. That would be my absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. One inspiring story. So perhaps in 2024, 2025, I'm getting back over next year. Let's just realize we're in 2024. Next year or 2 years, we can roll back and see what's happened over that period. So thanks so much for coming on. It's been inspiring to hear this conversation, and this is what the Don't Do That, Do This podcast is all about. So please subscribe, listen, and we've got some great stories to tell. Thank you.